Hello and welcome to the MAC weather page for this Wednesday, November 28th. And you can see yesterday morning some of the drifting that took place overnight. And we'll see a lot of this snow go by the wayside as we go into the weekend, as we expect a pretty wet system to bring plenty of rainfall, maybe a half inch to an inch of rain. And then we're going to be watching a system for early next week that could bring us a snowstorm around the Tuesday time frame. Still way too early. Some of the models still show it, so some of them don't, and some of them put it further south. But much like last week, only a little bit colder with this scenario, we expect a digging trough across the center part of the nation to begin to press east. And at the base of that trough, we expect energy to come out of the southern plains. And again, much like the last system, we expect that to move to the northeast. And I think there's a real opportunity for perhaps a significant storm as we get into Tuesday. So we got the potential for two storms. One, a sure thing with the rain here this weekend. And then again, we'll keep an eye on that storm for possible on Tuesday. And again, regardless of that storm, we're going to see the coldest air of the season arrive by the middle and end of next week. And we can see highs well down into the 20s and lows well down into the teens as we go into some deep midwinter type weather. And again, as we look at our climate, our normal high today is 40. The normal low is 25. And if we look at yesterday across the area, we had a high below freezing at 30.9, a low of 26. And again, so far for November, minus 4.1 degrees below normal. So a very cold month so far and a very snowy month. Our sunrise this morning is 7:48. It'll set tonight at 5:05. And if we look at temperatures across the area this morning, mainly in the mid-20s across the area. Again, the cold spot, Blissfield at 24.4, the warm spot, 27.2 here in Breckenridge. Interesting to know that the elementary school station, always about a degree or degree and a half cooler in the morning hours as growing up in the Breckenridge area. The location of that station is where often some of the hardest frost or freeze conditions occur during the fall. So it's a lower spot. And again, it's always quite a bit colder than most areas in town. And at Sandusky High School, or at the middle and high school, you can see 26 degrees this morning. And if you look at satellite view, you can see still some of the influences of that storm that brought us the snow, slowly moving off to the northeast, but throwing that moisture back towards southwest Ontario. And again, you can see our west-northwest flow of winds. Again, eventually we're going to see that begin to shift to the southwest as we approach the weekend with that storm. And out ahead of that milder air, we're going to see some snow break out on Thursday. Maybe changes to some freezing rain Thursday night. Right now, the odds are of any school delays on Friday are pretty low, but can't totally rule that out. But right now, I would say it's quite low. You can see the snow showers coming off their lakes downwind from Lake Michigan, Lake Erie, Lake Ontario, a little bit up here towards Lake Superior. But again, this will be on the dwindling side here as we go through the day. And as far as our next system goes, you can see on the weather map, this will be dropping off to the east-southeast and then moving to the northeast. And as that does, that'll bring us our snow as we get into Thursday, into Thursday night, into early Friday. And again, not a whole lot, but certainly we could see around an inch of snow and maybe some trace amounts of freezing rain or freezing drizzle, maybe as much as a few hundredths, maybe 5/100ths of an inch. But that could certainly slick up the roads quite a bit Friday morning. So do keep that in mind as you're traveling. And as far as precipitation, over the next 7 days, you can see much of the area around 3/4 to an inch or so of precipitation, much of that being in the form of rain over the weekend. But again, we're going to watch this map here over the next couple of days as we get into next Tuesday. If that, over the next 2 days, we could see a lot more precipitation begin to show up on this map here when you combine both storms here, the weekend storm and the potential one for Tuesday. And again, so that's something we'll keep an eye on that. And if that does increase, that'll probably give you an indication of the potential for the snowstorm on Tuesday. And again, it's way early, not saying it's going to happen, but it's something we need to keep an eye on. And as far as snowfall over the next 72 hours, again, mainly for Thursday, you can see anywhere from around a trace to possibly ½ inch or an inch of snow. Again, not a big deal. It may be the freezing drizzle or light freezing rain that may be more of the issue. And if we look at the El Nino pattern, you can see most of these are in the positive areas. Again, so that's indicating, especially as we get into the INSO 1-2, which would be the Eastern Pacific, we're well up solidly in a moderate El Nino. Lots of warm waters across the Pacific. But again, one of the key factors, obviously El Nino generally gives you a chance for a milder and drier winter, but not so much when you see this. If you see abnormally warm waters in the Gulf of Alaska, that tends to promote ridging just off to the east and troughing further downstream of that, and that could certainly be an indicator, a signal for colder weather. And I think what we're seeing is a pretty progressive MJO pattern, and it could be that this winter could be featured by storminess as far as periods of warmth and periods of cold. And with that combination or that fight, we could see a pretty active winter coming up. Right now, some of the indicators is that December could be brutally cold on some of the models, but yet on a couple of them it shows it pretty warm. Now the United States CFS version 2 did a horrible job. 10 days before November, it showed just blowtorch warmth over much of the eastern two-thirds of the United States up into Canada, and it was completely 180 degree the opposite. And again, like I said earlier, Breckenridge here, we're running just over 4 degrees per day below normal for the month of November. So that forecast was a complete total bust by the U.S. model. So we'll just have to see how it does in December. But the Pioneer model from Weather Bell certainly is showing a tremendous amount of cold down in from central Canada into much of the Midwest and Great Lakes and into the mid-Atlantic states. So we'll see how well that fares as well. As far as the forecast goes, you can see our slow moderating trend as we get into the weekend will be up around 40 or in the low 40s. And again, a pretty good amount of rain comes in for Saturday and Sunday. 1/2 inch to 1 inch looks likely. And the big period is we're going to watch for that potential storms that get into next week, and then brutally cold air behind that. And then also for tomorrow night into very early Friday, there could be from slick conditions with that freezing rain and maybe 1/2 inch or 1 inch of snow in some areas. Thanks for stopping by and have yourself a great day, and 73s to all.